Hi guys, Lewted host here with another dank stream. Today I'm going to talk about a unit that tends to get overlooked in most cases but is used by some people and when they play one of the three factions that I'm going to be talking about. If you can see my stream title, it's called something Samnite Warriors. Oh yes, the power of Samnite Warriors. And I'm going to just talk about Samnite Warriors because, like I said a few seconds ago, they get overlooked a lot. So, three factions in the game have Samnite Warriors. You have Carthage, who has Samnite Warriors. You have Epirus, who has Samnite Warriors. And you have Syracuse, that has Samnite Warriors. Now, all three of these factions are Hellenic, but Syracuse and Epirus are Greek city-states, which means that their strong house is Hoplites, or revolves around Hoplites. Epirus is special in the fact that they actually don't have above average Hoplites like the other Greek city-states do. Like Syracuse and Athens have Thorax Hoplites, Sparta has Spartan Hoplites and Royal Spartans, and Massalia has their own Massalian Hoplites. Epirus is special in the fact that they're kind of like a successor state in their own, because they have high tier pike unit, whereas the other Greek city states don't. However, they also have mercenary Etruscan Hoplites, which can be very useful, and I think Syracuse also has access to them, and perhaps Athens is, no, not Athens, just Syracuse and Epirus. Anyway, back to Samnite Warriors. Now, what do I like most about them? What I like most about them is that they give Carthage, Epirus, and Syracuse something that the Hellenic factions lack: a mid-tier, high-armored sword unit. Now, Thorax swordsmen are mid-tier. They are decent for what they can do. They tend to lose on one-on-one situations, and if they are not taken care of properly, they can get routed very quickly by barbarians. But they don't have 95 armor, like they don't have high armor. 75 armor is considered to be the standard, and you'll see this, or you'll know this if you've played Rome 2 long enough. With Samnite Warriors, what you have is a unit that isn't the best stat-wise. Like, they have 55 melee defense, 36 melee attack, and 34 weapon damage, but this is still good enough to beat certain pike units. It's still good enough to hold, it's still good enough to get a bunch of kills, and they have a charge bonus of 25, whereas Thorax swordsmen have a charge bonus of 18. It's something that not a lot of people pay attention to. Remember, the Samnites are technically Suki, which means that the Romans do have an equivalent, just like Italian swordsmen. The Roman equivalent is Suki Extraordinari, which costs the exact same, 760. They are statistically different in melee attack and melee defense. They boast the same health and same morale, yes. They sacrifice a melee attack point for 3 melee defense points and 7 less charge. But they had something else. No, they're disciplined. 55 melee defense. These guys have 52, 18 charge. Basically, they're the equivalent, but I don't know why they cost what they cost. Anyway, so basically, with Samnite Warriors, you essentially get something that the Romans specialize in: mid-tier, high-armored sword units. The Eastern factions don't get it. The barbarians overall don't get it either. Like, the only faction that has a high armor mid-tier sword unit is Tylus. Galatia has 75 armor. Arverni has 75 armor. Nervi has 45 armor. The Boyai also have 75 armor. Then, of course, the Iberians, their armor values are lower. Scutari have 60. Veteran Shield Warriors have 30. With the Balkan factions, the RDA don't have a viable sword unit. The Drisians only have low tier melee units. Like Thracian warriors are considered low tier because of their price. Just like how Bloodsworn are considered low tier. The Iceni do not either. Chosen Sword Band has 75 armor, obviously. And I already said Talus did. What other factions? The Nomads are immediately cut out because they don't have infantry. And multiplayer, of course. Dacia doesn't. They do have mercenary X-Men, but they have 65 armor and are not actually swordsmen. Now, you could argue that with Armenia and Colchis, that they have Kartli Axemen. Kartli Axemen have 75 armor, but people tend to say that they're good for what they can do. Of course, these are an axe unit, so already they don't count, but 75 armor also is still average. So again, that means that Samnite Warriors give you a Roman-like option for playing, and with Carthage, excuse me, that's very important because Carthage is, of course, very diverse. Now, if you've used Samnite Warriors, you've probably brought them because of their high armor and high health values. They have 65 health and 95 armor. They also have a missile block chance of 50 like the Sucky Extraordinari. I tend to not bring these guys anymore because I prefer... what do I prefer? I prefer bringing... Like, I'd bring Triari over Sucky Extraordinari. Because sometimes you don't need their armor. Like, it's, like when you're going up against the people that like to just charge you, Sucky Extraordinari make good meat shields. However, you'd probably go for Evocati Cohort or Veteran Legionaries. Anyway, moving on. I have been using them for ever since I got the Hannibal at the Gates pack, which you need to have access to them. Just thought I'd show you guys a replay or two of me using Samnite Warriors. And I think I showed one before where I was playing as Carthage and my opponent was Parthia, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I'll have to archive these games soon, so I can't remember what happened in this battle, but I'm gonna play it. Anyway, I was playing as Epirus because, of course, Epirus doesn't get a lot of love. This is probably one of the boring, one of the more boring replays you're going to see on my streams. I try my best not to showcase replays that take really long, like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I'll save that for Company of Heroes too.
Orders understood.
Ready your weapon!
By your command.
No matter who we meet in battle, we will triumph, for we honor the gods. Even if every foe had the strength of 1,000 men, it would mean nothing. Remember that, and make ready.
By your command.
Who else?
Now for my army, I brought 3 Cretan archers, yeah, and 3 Samnite Warriors, which is the max you can bring. 3 Royal Peltas, 3 Etruscan Hoplites, and 2 Thurios Spears. With Epirus, you have to economize and use low mid-tier units that tend to be cost ineffective
Understood.
to support like your cavalry, which Macedon and Epirus share. Like Macedon and Epirus share about 3 units. Royal Peltas, Thessalian Cav, actually they share 4. Royal Peltas, Thessalian Cav, excluding mercenaries. They share Agrianian Axemen, and they share Aspis Companions. Aspis Companions tend to not be that cost effective. It's very, very hard to make them cost effective, especially when you're going up against somebody that knows how to play the game. Over here, my ally brought 4 raiding horsemen, who, as I mentioned in the stream before, have better armor but less melee stats than the Galatian raiders. He brought a corps of tribal warriors. Tribal warriors are good defensively. Like I said before, they have 95 armor. And yeah, they're pretty good for holding their ground, but
Forward!
I would not bring a corps of them. Except if I was going up against a bunch of direct swordsmen. However, in this case he isn't. He's going up against a corps of silver shield swordsmen. On the flanks are 4 direct swordsmen. And I said this in a very long time back, but direct swordsmen don't get a lot of love because people keep on saying that, oh, they lose against this unit and they lose against that unit. And in reality, they do lose on one-on-ones against most units. Like, they will beat Galathracian infantry, they'll lose to Scutari, but what they have is 75 armor, 60 health, 55 morale, the option to go into formation attack, which is good for survivability, and they cost 710 and have good melee defense, as well as 38 melee attack. Bear in mind, they'll lose to Thorax Hoplites, but still, they're a pretty good unit.
Riders!
Now, I wasn't going to originally show this replay, but I thought it would be a good idea to show it alongside the topic for today, because I think that this battle highlights a problem that goes on among people that play Rome 2. Basically, in this battle, you're going to see my ally rush the Seleucids frontally. They're also going to be able to tie down all of these units and beat the cavalry, while I'm still fighting the Macedonians because I was a bit slower on my part. Anyway, what my plan was to just to skirmish. Actually, not skirmish. Pick off as many shield bearers as I can. Shield bearers, or hoplites in general, when they go into hoplite phalanx, their armor strength is increased. I think that it also increases their missile block chance to precursors, but I'm not 100% sure because they do not block upwards anymore, which means that their missile block chance does go down against things like arrows. I mean, they have 115 armor, so axe units tend to do really good on flanking them. Units that have low armor piercing, like sword units, do bad on them. Royal Peltas have 6 armor piercing because they wield the Copus. So that's not a big problem for me. Etruscan Hoplites don't have
Advance at speed!
the greatest armor piercing, but they do have better weapon damage than regular Hoplites, which is good. Over here, my ally did a really good job with harassing the Seleucid's flank. The fact that he didn't even focus at least a unit of archers into his middle was very problematic because it allowed his Thracian Peltas to advance and throw some volleys onto the Silver Shield swordsmen, which does weaken them when the main battle starts. The same can be said for arrows. Like, any damage that's done before a main engagement starts is very important. And it's more important for the successors because their swordsmen are not, they don't have the best mid-tier swords units. They rely more on pikemen, though. Which is why I always say that if you're playing as the successors and you want to bring pikes, make sure you bring a good amount of archers too, or have some sort of missile superiority, because if your opponent does, which the Iberians like to do for some reason, what ends up happening is you tend to have to deal with, worst case scenario, a barbarian rush faction that can get in with minimal casualties, and they can potentially flank your pikemen. Like, I've seen it happen a lot of times. So over here, Macedon did a tactic that I've seen been effective. It's basically where he keeps his men in hoplite flanks. Then when you charge these units, what ends up happening is the javelin men tend to fire on the flanks of that unit, all the while not firing on them for the most part against their own hoplites. It's a very helpful and good tactic. But of course, like I just said, you know, because these guys are in hoplite flanks, I don't think their missile block chance is increased against arrows because these guys aren't blocking, as you can see. Armor strength, I think, is like something that is used for bracing, but I'm not 100% sure. Armor strength was never really explained in Rome 2.
By my honor, I am getting a little bored.
Now, my belief is the reason he pulled back his Agrianian X-Men is because he didn't want my archers to fire on them, all the while believing that these shield bearers would tank out the shots a lot better. However, the reason why I was aiming at these shield bearers and not the Agrianian Axemen is because I'd be able to deal with the Agrianian Axemen up close. Agrianian Axemen are good in melee when they're flanking and hitting you in the rear, but in a one-on-one engagement against most mid-tier sword units, they'll lose because of their lack of good armor and their lack of good melee stats. I think the only reason I didn't go into heavy shot is because I didn't want his Agrianian Axemen to rush me, because that would have been a disaster. My plan was to just sit back and let my archers finish their volleys off. Then, when I can do it, just charge frontally and hopefully get rid of the shield bearers on this flank so I could support my ally, who actually engaged pretty early. Now, of course, the Spades are going to lose even though they have pretty good armor. Because, I mean, on the charge, these guys Oaths won. are just going to wreck them. At this point, because I saw my ally starting his engagement over here, what I decided to do was to start rushing up my Royal Peltas, which I knew was a risky move because he still had his Agrianian Axemen. But, you know, like if the Seleucids had won on this flank, which I didn't even notice that they lost over here, what would have ended up happening was the Seleucids would have flanked me. Over here, I decided to put a unit of Samnite Warriors on this flank because I was going to try to see if I can get some precursors into this unit of a Gamma Cav. Mastodon decides to send this unit of Thessalian Cav all the way to support this fight over here, but he does it right in front of these tribal warriors, which ends up making him lose an entire unit, which of course is a bad idea. The Cav over here is being dealt with pretty well. Jav Cav are pretty good. Because he did that,
Riders, advance! Men! Swords drop!
At the double!
Yes, Commander!
so right here I see an opening for the flank. I wasn't going to attack these historic swordsmen because I thought that was a bad idea.
Now!
Over here he brings up his Agrianian Axemen to go through the flanks,
Follow me and
which I didn't
march
think was a bad
at
idea.
speed!
Double time!
I was going to throw my precursor volley, but then his Agama Cav retreated, so I just took the opportunity to go for these Agrianian Axemen. Remember, he has a bunch of javelin men and I have a unit of elephants, so I can't use my elephants frontally just yet. Over here I do a nice volley on the flank against these shield bearers.
Riders at the double!
His Agrianian Axemen actually get a good amount of volleys in.
Riders at the double! Forward!
Over here I use this unit of Thessalian Cav to pin down these Citizen Cav, and I know they're going to win because they have better melee stats, like they have better melee defense and whatnot. But I just need to tie them down so I can go for these units of Agrianian Axemen. I used my Cretan archers, which had used all of their arrows, to absorb the missiles.
Back, men! Back!
Now over here I wasn't really expecting what had happened.
For the wall!
Like, I wasn't expecting these Agrianian Axemen to get away, but
Yes,
they did.
Commander.
So I had to pull out immediately.
Understood!
Understood!
I decided to charge into the back of these Citizen Cav to help out my Thessalians, who were losing pretty bad. He decides to throw some javelin volleys into this blob,
Yes, Commander!
which was a bad idea because my general, which was right here, could have been focus fired on, and I would have probably lost it.
Engage!
Pull back! Double time!
Over here I kept my Samnite Warriors in the back,
Double time!
because I noticed that he wasn't very decisive with what he was doing.
Withdraw!
So here was a very interesting move by my opponent. He decides to use the Citizen Cav to hit the rear of my Samnite Warriors while they're engaging the Agrianian Axemen. What I expected was that he was going to use this unit to flank the Samnite Warriors and throw some javelins in, but he decides to charge in instead. Now this unit's going to rout soon.
Ready!
This unit already routed, so all I have to do is send in these Royal Peltas. Then I can just shoot some volleys into the flank and rear of this unit. which was pretty effective. I pulled back these Thessalians. He charges in. Remember, Samnite Warriors are a very heavy unit, so even though they got hit in the rear, it's not going to do a lot of mass impact damage. But of course, if they were to stay in the rear and this unit started routing, that would be a problem. Over here, my Royal Peltests are doing pretty good.
Close ranks! Raise shields!
Which makes sense.
Charge! Forward!
Now over here, I was too slow with my Samnite Warriors, so I could have used them to push back these Agrianian Axemen. I didn't, and that came back to bite me. It'll come back to bite me in a few minutes.
Form a wall!
So what he was able to do was send in his Agrianian Axemen
Advance the speed!
to support his shield bearers, which allows them to stay in, and plus he has Agrianian Axemen. Because of how slow I wasn't able to counter this threat quicker than I wanted to.
Ready and waiting! Riders! Advance!
Over here, these Agrianians decide to go into the rear at the senior Royal Peltas, which I think was a pretty good idea. I thought it was a pretty good idea. However, because it's just one unit of Agrianian Axemen against a unit of Samnite Warriors, they're now bound to lose. They'll get killed soon.
Quick march!
This is one of the reasons why I like bringing Illyrian levies, because they're cheap. Not cost effective, but quite cheap. He does it over here as well, where he sends a unit of Agrianian Axemen into the rear. But what happens is, because he does that, it allows my Samnite Warriors to throw javelins into them and rout them a lot quicker. So they immediately get 33 kills, and they decide to close in for the kill. Because of how quickly because they killed about 50% of the unit in 60 seconds or less, they routed it. And that's something you will know if you play Attila. I threw javelins over precursors over here to rout this unit of shield bearers, which worked. And yeah, that was pretty much it for our opponents. Like over here, I didn't even get to use my elephants that effectively. I decided to go for the Agrianian Axemen so my Etruscan Hoplites could go in, tie these guys down, then use the elephants. He was trying to block me from not doing it, but I ended up getting through anyway.
Advance at speed!
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Quickly now! Riders at the double! Forever loyal! And for glory! Order charge! Aye! We understand! Witness! As you command!
And yeah, it was a pretty nice battle, good victory. So yeah, good game to both of them. My elephants got 190 kills. But what if there's anything you wanted to take away from that? Samnite Warriors were able to get a lot of kills because they were fighting Agrianian Axemen. It just points out that Agrianian Axemen aren't as useful as I thought they were at first. But at the same time, Samnite Warriors are quite tanky. Like, I didn't use them properly in this battle, and in the next one I did use them properly. So I thought I'd just show that before I show the next replay, which isn't going to be this one. Now with this one I made a few mistakes, but I think it really represents what Samnite Warriors are good at. It's basically me in Egypt versus Carthage and Macedon. As you can see, Carthage also brought Samnite Warriors, but also brought Scutari. And let's just see how effective he uses them versus how effective I use them.
As you command!
And military halls. Carthaginians lack all courage and pay others to fight for them. We need only kill a few for the rest to run. Make ready! Are you command?
So, unlike what I usually do when I'm playing at Syracuse, I didn't bring that many Thorax Hoplites. I think I brought only 3. I brought 3 picked Hoplites, 2 veteran Hoplites.
As you command!
And basically, knowing how Carthage works, I brought light peltasts instead of Balearic slingers, because chances are Carthage would have done the same thing or brought Cretan archers. He decided to bring Cretan archers, which was fine with me. I wasn't planning on using my peltasts for them anyway. My light peltasts would have been better for the Libyan infantry, or even the Samnite Warriors. Now when he brought the Scutari, I was a bit afraid because Scutari are very cost effective. They are hands down probably the best mid-tier sword unit there is in the game. If you watch my stream where I talk about the most cost-effective mid-tier unit, you'll probably see that they lose to Fierce Swords because of their lack of armor, and the fact that Fierce Swords have not only 40 weapon damage but 37 charge, which is just enough to wreck Scutari, which actually made me do tests to see if Scutari or the Nervi would hard counter the Arvaci. It turns out that they do in a sense, but there are some places where they don't, so it's possible that they don't completely hard counter them, but they can counter them effectively. So yeah, not that I share that with you guys. Anyway, my opponent brought a solid line of Libyan infantry, and you don't see this very often. You'll see like noble fighters if somebody has Hannibal at the gates, or you'll see some pikemen. But Carthage is very diverse, and so you never know what they're going to bring unless you've played against the player before. Like Campanian Cav, again, are sword Cav units. Very hard to make them cost effective. Very good against infantry. Like very, very good against infantry. Just like all Cav units, they have a hidden bonus versus 5 against infantry. So it could be worthwhile to use these guys against high tier sword units by like recharging and recharging them. They can do really well against mid-tier sword units. They work in a similar way as Berserkers when it comes to melee stats. Now, of course, their melee stats aren't identical to Berserkers, but how they act is. So anyway, my ally was Egypt. My opponent was, his opponent was Macedon. And before patch 17, Royal Peltasts used to be very heavy, and they could be a worthwhile unit, a worthwhile frontline unit. They aren't anymore, but they're more maneuverable, which is pretty useful for what they can do. Royal Peltasts basically have the same role as your typical Roman legionary, specifically the Evocati cohort. They're very similar statistically wise, except Royal Peltasts have one more armor piercing, more charge, less armor, same health, and more morale. They also have 5 precursors that do 29 damage with a 5 bonus versus cav. So I observed my opponent's army. My belief was he was going to use these Samnites to flank. He did not. No, he did actually. He used them to flank.
Advance at speed.
And because he had an elephant general, I knew that taking care of him was top priority. Over here, my ally decided to engage very poorly. Like, he went right into Royal Peltasts with Rhodian Slingers. Fortunately, he was able to pull out in time, so it wasn't all that bad. He tries to take shots at the companion Cav General. Doesn't really get any off. Maybe like a pebble or two. So yeah. Anyway, over here, these Cretan archers are aiming for the veteran hoplites. I don't like that too much, so I send my Italian cav in to stop them. Ends up tying down 3 units. Actually, yeah, 3 units of Libyan infantry. I get this unit of Cretan archers. Because of what happened, I was able to pull them out, but also get my units in. Now over here, he's brought his general, but he's being very cautious. I think it's because he didn't want to charge them in frontally and risk losing them. So as I said, Samnite Warriors are very resilient, pretty good. Work in the same way as Saki Equites. So he decides to continue aiming for my unit of mercenary cav, which was fine with me, because if he went to aim for like any other unit, that would have been bad. He's going to start focus firing on my light peltasts over here. And I brought light peltasts simply because I wanted to use their maneuverability. My ally over here decided to use a bunch of skirmisher cav to get to the general. It wasn't that necessary, but he did it anyway. And bobbing them up is a really bad idea. However, he was able to get a lot of volleys off because he bobbed them up, so I was very thankful for that. Over here,
at speed. Advance at speed.
My opponent was able to. He made a mistake there, but he was able to flank with the Samnite Warriors. What he was trying to do was get his Scutari to get into them. However, that was a mistake because all of a sudden these Samnite Warriors are pulling back. These Samnite Warriors are pulling back. Basically, I've tied down 2 units. Now, these Samnite Warriors did get out, but they did take precursor damage, which is what I wanted. Over here, his general's trying to move over here, which is why I moved 2 units of Peltasts over here. These units of Samnite Warriors are losing, but they are doing what I wanted them to do, just holding the Libyan infantry down so I can use my Thorax Hoplites to get a good amount of kills. And then when they rout, which I don't think they did rout. When they routed, the Libyan infantry would go up against the stronger Thorax Hoplites. Now over here, I wasn't paying too much attention to the Thorax Swordsman.
Yes, Commander! Hoplite phalanx!
I hate it when they
At speed!
when shield wall makes your units go into the rear, because it really messes them up. Like, it really does.
Take aim!
His general wasn't paying that much attention, and so I was able to get a full 2 volleys off on it.
By your command! Orders understood!
Now by this point they ended up running amok, which is what I wanted. I just decided to focus them down because they started to run through their lines. Again, over here I wasn't paying that much attention, but fortunately these pickpockets weren't in Hopper-2 flanks.
Quick! Reload!
Basically, because these elephants got stuck on my spears, they got massacred. So just like that, the general ends up getting killed. And that just devastates the Skitari, which are not disciplined.
As you command! Yes,
So he ends up routing my light Peltas, but they've done what I wanted them to do, so
understood!
everything's good.
Yours to command!
Over here, I had a cav fight. I was able to tie down these Campanian cav, which were very pesky. I was able to focus fire on the Campanian cav as well, which was good. Over here, it's obvious that he's going to lose on his flanks. These Samnite Warriors are being used cost ineffectively. They are going up against a very superior unit that is now in phalanx that will actually beat them because of their armor piercing. They have 8 armor piercing and then have a 5 bonus versus infantry.
Yes, Commander!
Which completely decimates them. Whereas my Samnite Warriors, although they too will lose, were able to hold down the center
Understood! By your command!
so that the Thorax Palpites can come in and seal the deal. Over here, the Thorax Palpites are actually losing. And I think that has something to do with the fact that they are not in formation attack. Because over here, these guys stopped fighting because of not being in formation attack. Over here, and then I made a mistake. Like I said, I accidentally made all my units go over here because I was trying to fight this unit of Cretan archers. So I made that mistake, but I quickly fixed it. And then fast forward, he tries to hit my general unit. It doesn't work that well because, sorry, I don't think they had precursors. So yeah, they didn't. That was a very bad idea. It allowed my pickpockets to hit these guys in the rear. And I mean, pickpockets have expert charge defense. So over here, the mercenary veteran Hoplites are going up against Royal Peltas. And then with the help of light Peltas, which I think ran out of ammunition at this point. And then I just decided to mop up what was left.
As you command.
So all in all, his Samnite Warriors did very badly. Like, he could have done a lot better with his Samnite Warriors, but chose not to.
Form phalanx!
Yeah, eventually my Samnite Warriors did break. I think they did a really good job. Libyan infantry have 36 weapon damage, which is really good.
Engage! By your command!
Over here, Egypt's doing fine. Nothing really important. The Royal Peltas tried to get away. I just decided to let them because it looked like we were going to win anyway.
Charge! Orders understood! By your command!
And yeah, Carthage got mopped up pretty quickly. My Pictopotes were fine. They did get hit a bit, but they were fine. And I kept a unit of Samnite Warriors too, which was good. Over here, these Doric swordsmen are flanking these Doric swordsmen. And I just wanted to let you guys know that if you didn't know this already, just like skirmishers, units that throw precursors do have a reload time, even when they are charging. So you can't charge into one unit, throw precursors, then charge into another unit, and then throw precursors again. It doesn't work. He was able to use these skirmisher cav units pretty good. And yeah, like, he was able to mop up Macedon, and that was it. So it was a good game. My Samnite Warriors, on average, got more kills. And they were pretty cost effective. Now, this is a bit off topic, but I thought it would be a good idea to show it if it pops up. I fought this battle this morning. I thought it would be a good idea to show it to you guys. Basically, it's me playing as Dacia, my ally playing as Bactria up against Carthage and Rome.
Yes, the good old sun-worshipping, camel-loving, beetle-shitting folk. Oh, my friends, we are in for a treat. Their soldiers are slaves and useless, their leaders fat and rich. Let's get amongst them. Get ready!
For this battle, I was playing as Dacia. My opponent was Carthage, as I just said. Now, Dacia isn't the best of factions to play as when you want to do a typical barbarian rush, but there are ways of making them work. their core unit is their spears. Like their spear roster is what you usually use as a core. Their specialist unit is the Falksmen. Falksmen aren't always the greatest of choices. Like, you charge them frontally and there's a good chance you'll end up losing them before you can pull them out because of their low armor value. They're even worse than Thracian Warriors on the charge because they have a better charge bonus, and that's something that units with extra charge defense can use against them. Anyway, I was playing as Dacia. Well, I just said that. Why would I say it again? My ally was playing as Bactria, and he was up on this hill. And I was thinking that we were going to attack at the same time, but I don't think he was thinking about that, so... I don't think he was thinking about us attacking at the same time. I think he was thinking that because of the hill advantage, he could somehow hold against the Romans. Now, my ally made a big mistake by bringing, I think, 2 units of Hellenic cataphracts, a unit of elephants. Like, that's an immediate no-no. Like, it's either you bring 1 unit of elephants or 2 units of Hellenic cataphracts. Like, either one's fine, but bringing both means that your core is going to be bad. He brought 4 elite Persian archers, and I think these are Bactrian Peltasts, 2 Bactrian Royal Guard, and then his core is Scaled Thorax Hoplites. This would work against the Carthaginians, not the Romans. Now, had my ally had said, you know, let's switch places, I would have been fine with that. He didn't, so I assumed that he was fine with what he was up against. Because I saw this core of Evocati cohort, and I was thinking to myself, you know, that this is going to be quite hard. I was partially right. I mean, they gave us a hard time. But the biggest problem in this game was the fact that he wasn't really communicating with me, even though I was trying to tell him, you know, I can't fight both factions at the same time because Dacia won't stand. They're not Rome, basically. They can't fight 2 factions at once. My ally was trying to focus on the Succia Equites Extraordinari. I think that was a good idea. You know, focusing on these guys is a good idea, especially because you don't want them to charge into your archers. Now, the problem with it, though, is that he kept on firing, well, he kept on getting too close, and these Balearic slingers would catch up to his horse archers. And because he wasn't really moving forward, I risked getting flanked from the Romans. See, I was 100% fine going up against the Carthaginians. I could use my spearmen to hold down his pikemen. I could use my cav to fight his cav. I could use my noble swords to break his noble fighters, because apparently noble swords beat noble fighters. I think it's because of the armor difference and the weapon damage difference. Noble swords have better weapon damage. The Romans decide to bring 4 units of Evocati cohort, which actually weakens them on this side because this unit of these units of Cretan archers were trying to focus on me, and I was fine with that because it would allow these elite Persian archers to fire on whatever units he had here. And that's what he did. He aimed for these units, but he kept on making the same mistake. He kept on trying to aim for the Balearic slingers, but he kept on getting too close. This would have worked if he had attacked, but he didn't. And because he kept on stalling and waiting and basically not using these units effectively, what kept on happening was I kept on getting pushed back because the Carthaginians were being supported by the Romans, who are here, but nonetheless still a threat. If I were to attack him, like right now, what would happen is the Romans would just flank me. And he'd still stay here. That's why I didn't attack. I basically have what it takes to defeat the Carthaginians. But I don't have enough to fight both the Romans here and the Carthaginians. Plus his general is also an elephant. He has 2 units of noble cav and a unit of Carthaginian cav. These noble cav I think would lose to my own cav. The spear horsemen would definitely lose to Carthaginian cav, but the spear horsemen have 9 health, which is very useful for tanking cav fights. It's also very, very useful when you're chasing down skirmishers and another skirmisher unit's firing on you. Especially if it's a slinger unit. So basically this actually went on for like over 10 minutes. Me just constantly going back, and my ally, who wasn't really committed to fighting the Carthaginians, he kept on moving units here and there, but he wasn't trying to engage in a skirmisher fight, because if he did, he would have won. Now he makes the same mistake again. He uses his horse archers to go for these Balearic slingers. If these were Bactrian horse archers, I would have said this would have been a good idea, because he could just charge these in. But what he does is he focuses on these Balearic slingers, who, mind you, don't get a lot of kills, but they get enough kills to damage these horse archers. And that's a big problem, because these horse archers can be used not to take down to help take down the elephants, obviously, but they can also be used to hurt these sucky equites. Because he's not paying attention to these horse archers, I have to remind him that his horse archers are getting fired at. He's basically lost a unit of horse archers that only got 29 kills, and he's going to lose another one that got 46 kills. He's going to try to charge into them, but it's not going to work, because obviously they don't have the mass or the damage. So basically he's already lost 2 units of horse archers, and the Romans have lost nothing. They haven't lost any skirmishers, they haven't lost any cavalry units, they haven't lost their elephants, and basically I'm still stuck doing the same thing I've been doing since the beginning of the match, just constantly going back, hoping that my ally will actually try to do something. However, my ally made mistake after mistake, and it was very problematic. What he tries to do here is he tries to, I think, focus fire on either the Balearic slingers. No, it was the Cretan archers that he was focus firing on. The Cretan archers moved back just enough to push these elite Persian archers to come. And because of this, these units end up blobbing up, and that's a disaster when you're going up against good Balearics, good slingers. He has no choice but to move back, because he's starting to take a lot of fire. The Balearic slingers have been getting like a lot of kills. This unit of horse archers actually charged right into Silky Equites, which obviously is not going to end well for them. And it was just a lot of mistakes and a lot of him staying idle and not helping when I asked him to help. Now, I actually came up to the end here, so I knew I couldn't back up anymore. But the Romans still had a very viable source of taking down my spears and cutting into my axes, which I had behind my swords. I put my swords on this flank because my idea was to take down these noble fighters as quickly as possible, all the while taking down these Libyan infantry units as well. Unfortunately, it didn't happen like that because of the fact that I had to use my units somewhere else. Now, an army like this isn't threatening at all. When you let cavalry units on your flanks, that's a problem. But when you let infantry units on your flanks, they still have to run up to you and they still have to engage you. You know, him engaging against my 4 noble swords, one of them being the general, would mean that his own infantry units, which actually cost more, would end up losing. Like, these living infantry units don't cost more, but these noble fighters do. So I was thinking to myself, you know, if my ally could just support me and, you know, engage the Romans, I could do everything else. Like, I can make sure that the Romans don't flank me by doing a bunch of shenanigans and using my axemen where they would need to be. However, the Romans are still very close to the main line pike units. Now over here, because of pathing issues, my Dacian heavy skirmishers actually got a lot of fire, and I had to pull them back over here because they would have ended up staying right here, which I didn't want.
Move it!
Over here, he makes another mistake. He's trying to fire on these Balearic slingers, and I mean, yes, you'll want to take them out, but you only need 1 unit of cav. He ends up, I think, losing this unit of elite Persian archers that didn't really do anything. He still has these Gallithorax hoplites. He's still wasting units, and these units are being cut down and just wasted, really. Now, because of the position, I know I have no choice, and so I have to attack by this point because the Carthaginians are actually attacking the Bactrians, and this is mainly in part because he didn't move back and support me either. So basically, he has Bactrian Peltas, which he's bringing up against the Cretan archers, which is going to be very ineffective. He then is going up against Spear Gladiatrices, which for some reason activated Killing Spree, which was a good idea, mind you, but all these things made them tire really quickly, and they didn't need to happen. By this point, my armored spears are getting fired on. I try to scare away his Balearic slingers. There's a gap, and obviously the Romans are going to attack me because, you know, like I said, the Romans are too close to the center. So now all of a sudden the Romans are just showering my cav with a lot of missiles. Because his Balearic slingers move back, it gives me an opportunity to get a rear charge on these African pikemen, which I desperately need to make their pikes go down. Now over here, I charge these noble fighters, giving myself a lot of damage, doing a lot of damage, also putting myself in a very bad situation. Over here, I was supposed to bring my general to help this unit, but I ended up not doing that for some reason. So all of a sudden my general's over here, and which is a good thing, because this unit, what ends up happening is the Carthaginian hoplites actually go for my armored spears. Over here my cav are completely routed. The African pikemen get stuck for some reason, and the armored spears are actually able to get in. Over here, his elfin general was trying to get to my flank, and so I put my Dacian heavy bowmen on the flank to deter them, which they did. I was also able to allow my noble spears to get into the flank of this unit. But over here, it's very, very obvious that I'm not going to be able to stand up to the amount of units that I'm going up against. Like, the Romans are starting to fight single units, but he's not really committing, even though most of the Roman units are actually fighting me right now. Whereas, like, he could have flanked these Evocati cohort and won on his side and then helped me. But he didn't, and that caused a lot of problems. Now this unit of noble fighters threw their precursors into my general, meaning that they wouldn't be able to throw it into my noble horsemen, which I was fine with. So over here, the general went amok. By this point, I didn't want to commit to them, but I had no choice. I changed the armor, I changed the round back to regular so that I could take them down quicker. But in the center, I'm being flanked. I'm being flanked by Romans. I'm being hit hard by Romans, and I'm basically going to have to go up against another unit of elephants. And I mean, I was doing pretty good because I was able to focus on this unit of elephants when I was supposed to. Then this unit of elephants comes to support his ally. Again, you know, I'm being flanked, I'm being hit hard. The Romans are really giving me a hard time, and my ally is still here doing nothing. And this is a big problem in Rome 2 because this happens a lot. It's basically the difference in teamwork is very obvious. You know, he was able to flank my armored spearmen, and I was basically having a bad time. Over here, I got some flaming shots into the elephants, but I wasn't able to actually get them. Because these guys were in the shield wall, I put them in the shield wall immediately. And I mean, this was just really terrible. The fact that I was flanked by the Romans while he could have easily defeated this flank is just, it really bothered me. Like, it bothered me for the entire day, and I hate it when you get allies like this, you know, that aren't really willing to help you out, but are just doing nothing really. I mean, I made the elephants go amok twice, and then I had to deal with another unit of elephants, which if it were coming from the Carthaginians, that would be fine, because that means that they have less infantry to deal to fight. But it actually came from the Romans. So over here, basically what's happening is the Romans are just piling on me, and it's basically a 2 versus 1, and I can't do anything, really. So now I make these guys run amok, which is what I wanted the entire time. It allows you to beat these guys easily with spears, but unfortunately these aren't spears. He makes a big mistake by sending in Indian war elephants into the center of this blob, making them run amok and making them actually kill my general in the process. Like, he did get a lot of kills with his elephants, but he also ran into my men a lot, and that ended up breaking them very quickly.
Warriors, withdraw! Warriors, ready! Take the yard!
That precursor volley made the general... It actually killed the general, but it also made these African elephants run amok. which is partially what I wanted.
Withdraw!
And yeah, basically these elephants got a lot of kills, but at the same time they were killing my men and killed my general. Basically, these elephants just smashed into my own unit, which I was kind of expecting. I mean, it was really bad. He was so slow in helping me, and you know, I'd never do this to my ally. Like, never, never. Like, if I ever did this to my ally, I'd feel like complete garbage. You know, like, he let both factions just completely overrun me, and I was actually surprised that he did it.
Shield wall now! We're taking trophies!
So yeah, that was pretty much it for me, and as you can probably tell, he's gonna lose the same way. But I was stunned. The fact that he had what it took to defeat the Romans, mind you, because he had one elephant and two Hellenic cataphracts, he basically allowed both armies to beat me. And I even said in the chat that I didn't want to do a 2 versus 1 because, you know, like, I can't do it. No matter how good I am in Rome 2, I can't do a 2 versus 1. Because the Romans did make a lot of mistakes. The Carthaginians made a lot of mistakes. And I almost beat the Carthaginians, but because the Romans helped them, I couldn't beat them. If the Romans were fighting Bactria and Carthage decided to help them, obviously I'd flank Carthage, get rid of their pikemen, help my ally who would struggle against Ivocati cohort, and that would be it. So basically it was just him trying to do a bunch of things. He ended up failing. Tried to do a box of hoplites. It didn't work. The Roman general didn't die, but the Carthaginian one did, if you didn't know. So I mean, I did get something out of it, which I felt pretty good for. But like, my ally got more kills than I did because I was fighting 2 factions. I think that if there's something that I'm going to take away from this, it's let your ally, if he's being idle, just take the fall. Because this probably wouldn't have happened if the Romans had gone after Bactria. See, something tells me that my opponent wasn't really, my ally wasn't really, like, trying, like, he was just being a goof, because, like, the fact that he actually did this against the Romans too, mind you, means that he doesn't really understand the concept of how the Romans work and what the Romans are good at. Because again, I couldn't beat the Romans. I couldn't beat the Romans all at once. I'd have to pick them apart by holding them down and charging them from the rear. But I wasn't fighting the Romans, I was fighting the Carthaginians. And that's why part of me wished I could have beaten the Carthaginians and then have the Romans flank me, because then the fight would have been slightly easier. But it wasn't like that, and unfortunately it was a 2 versus 1 and my army got routed pretty quickly. Now, skilled thorax hoplites are worse than regular hoplites when it comes to armor. They, I think, have better melee defense than regular hoplites, but their melee attack is 1 or 2 less. His general dies, I think. I think when he routs. Yeah, his general dies right there. Because these units are disciplined, they don't get the minus 30 morale debuff when the general dies or routs. They get the minus... Actually, I think they do get the minus 30 debuff when he routs. But they get the minus 15 immediately when he dies. Anyway, elephants come in. And because it's a brick wall of spears, they're not going to get far, but they'll get a few kills here and there. So yeah, the Carthaginian general routed. These African elephants are getting kills, but not a lot. Again, they're going up against hoplites and phalanx. The same thing would happen if they were going up against spears and shield screen. Remember, spears have a bonus versus cost. They always do. But this is one of the most depressing fights that I've fought in Rome 2 ever. Like, we should have won this, honestly, and we didn't, simply because it was a 2 versus 1, and then it was a 2 versus 1 again. And I mean, because he boxed himself in like this, he obviously lost to the Romans. Like, I don't know, maybe it could work against the Carthaginians, but definitely not against the Romans. So, a good game on our opponents. If there's one thing you want to take away from this, it's teamwork. Always teamwork. In 2 versus 2s, 3 versus 3s, 4 versus 4s, it's always teamwork. In 1 versus 1s, which I excel at, you don't have to worry about teamwork. You just have to worry about outsmarting your opponent. And yeah, that was basically it. My axes got wasted. My spears got wasted. My skirmishers got wasted pretty quickly, especially this one. My bowmen didn't get a lot of kills because they were mainly making the elephants run amok. My noble swords got a bunch of kills. They were more cost effective than the noble fighters, which I was happy with. That made me feel a bit better, but it's still this battle still angered me a lot. And yeah, like, my noble spears did pretty good too. My ally got 90 kills with his back-to roll attack, 430 kills with his elephants, which is pretty good, 358 kills with his cataphracts, which is good, 86 with this one, which isn't good, 50, 34, 29, not good, didn't do good. His elite Persian archers did good, but that's because they were able to fire a lot, which I have to commend him for. He did good on that part. But overall, this was a very, very bad fight. Our opponents were not the best of opponents. Like, they were able to get a lot of kills because they focused on one of us and then focused on the other because they were able to. Had my ally flanked the Romans, or even like presented a solid wall of Hoplite phalanxes, what I could have done was I could have helped. I could have, or even he could have used his Hellenic Cataphracts to rear charge his Evil Caddy cohort. Because a rear charge from Hellenic Cataphracts against Evil Caddy cohort almost completely ignores damage, especially when you activate Trample. I think it's Trample. In any case, they did a really good job, and I have to commend them for that. Now I'm going to play probably like 2 battles and call it a day. But before I do that, I want to see if I can... Do they... Yeah, they have Trample. Hellenic Cataphracts have a charge bonus of 76, a weapon damage of 27, 12 of which is armor piercing and 15 which is base. With Trample, their charge bonus goes up to 120, I think. Like, it's really good. Now, Evil Caddy cohort can completely block the weapon damage, like the base damage from a unit of Hellenic Cataphracts, or come close actually. Because let's just say you take out armor piercing, this unit would have 15 base damage and then 76 charge bonus. That's 91 base damage. So if Evil Caddy cohort unit completely blocked base damage, that means that 1 base damage is still applied. And then of course there's the 12 armor piercing and the 5 bonus versus cav, which is hidden. Like, he could have really made these Hellenic Cataphracts do really good. I think he focused his Hellenic Cataphracts on these skirmishers, which is why they got a lot of kills. Oh well. It is what it is. I mean, you can't always have the best of allies, you can't always have the best of opponents. I'm sorry if it sounds like a rant, but it was just really, really bad. I just wish my ally had tried a little bit harder to actually fight the Romans. Like, he didn't try at all when I started my attack against the Carthaginians. Like, I was microing my cav, I was microing my spears, I was microing all of these units because I was trying to get in to the pikes and make sure that the pikes weren't as effective as they were in the battle. But you can't always win, and I know that. Still sucks though. Now, what faction have I not played as? I'm going to use the Samnite Warriors, probably in the next battle. Instead, I'm going to use Suki Extraordinari, because again, they pretty much do the same thing. But as the Romans, their playstyle is different. As the Romans, as I mentioned before, the Romans rely on their very heavy melee infantry to stand their ground, cut down infantry units. They don't have shield walls, so they can't boost their melee defense. But they are very good for what they can do. Almost every Roman unit's cost effective. Hastati are cost effective. They will lose to Celtic warriors, but they will win against Gallic warriors, I think. So that's something that you have to be careful of when you're playing as Carthage. Their spear infantry aren't that useful. Like, you won't always see a Roman player bringing spears. If you do, it would most likely be Triari. They rely on their auxiliaries for everything that they can't do. Obviously, as very heavy infantry units, they can't chase skirmishers. Because they have javelins as their main skirmisher infantry, they can't fight archers or slingers at range. Velites and leves are mostly effective against elephants and chariots. Because remember, the Romans don't have, or their melee infantry don't have, they don't have abilities that boost their mass. And because of that, you have to rely on other ways of holding down units. I haven't brought Sucky Equites in a while, so I'm going to give them a try. I think I fought this guy yesterday. Could be wrong. Chances are I did, and this is just going to be a rematch. So usually when you play as the Romans, you'll see people spam Evocati Cohort. Because technically Evocati Cohort are broken. They have great melee attack, same melee defense as most Roman units, but they have 90 armor, which is the same as Legionary Cohort, very useful, and yeah, they're pretty good. However, because they have the same melee defense as pretty much every other unit, they tend to suffer against, just like every other Roman unit, to good charges, good flanks, good rear hits. Well, rear hits, melee defense is reduced to 0, so you can't really use that as an argument. But I'm going to bring a very unorthodox Roman army. I'm going to bring... Yeah, you can bring 3, but I'm going to bring 2. 5 Legionary Cohort. 2 Veteran Legionaries. Actually, no, that would be a bad idea. That's better. This is better. Basically, 3 units of Auxiliary Cav Equites, which are medium. 3 Balearic Slingers, 4 Auxiliary Infantry. Very helpful for winning cav engagements. 2 Succubus Extraordinari to soak up precursor damage. And 4 Legionaries. Or 5 Legionaries, sorry. Now, I don't know if anyone new is watching the stream, or if anyone's watching the stream at all. Because people tend to not watch the stream. I mean, I make the dankest stream, so I expect nobody to watch this. But if anybody's watching this, welcome to my stream, obviously. Basically, I don't play as Rome a lot because Rome's a very easy faction to learn, a very easy faction to play as. It takes a lot of skill to get really, really good with them, but to get just good with them is pretty easy. As the Romans, your main line will consist of very heavy melee infantry units. Most likely won't be units like these two, Sucky Equites Extraordinari, but Sucky, anything with Sucky in it for the Romans is considered to be a filler unit. Basically what that means is they basically fill in a gap that the Romans can't do. Like, for example, these units have 95 armor and these units have 90. What this means is these units are more resilient to base damage. They're more resilient to missiles in general.
Infantry! Orders! Understood.
They don't have the same abilities as the Romans, but they are still
We hunger
just
for
as
blood
effective.
and battle! General!
Now, like I said a bit earlier, I don't know if I'm pretty sure I fought this guy earlier, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah.
Over there is an army of fools brought to the field of death by lies and falsehoods. Our swords, spears, and arrows will kill them. But the true cause of their defeat and deaths is idiocy. Make ready!
Guns to a man! Riders on me! Ride out!
Now, if anyone new's watching the
Riders
stream,
on me!
I've been playing Rome 2 for, according to Steam, 2.5k hours. I've been looking into the database to learn anything that I don't know about Rome 2 already. I've figured out a lot about Rome 2 just by watching videos and whatnot. I know pretty much every faction's strengths and weaknesses. I know a bunch about Rome 2, but I also have 4 other Total War games, one of which I got this January, I think, or maybe it was in December, I can't remember. Now, what I tend to do is I like to observe my opponent's army. Like to make observations of what they're good at, what they are bad at. Right now he has 2 units of Numidian Cav, which, I mean, they're pretty good.
Slingers!
They're quite tough to chase down and beat. They are very fast, very agile, and their javelins, which they do throw, cause a lot of damage to cavalry, which is why he's bringing them up to my flank right now.
Our hidden units have been discovered. Infantry! At the double! In service to Rome! Yours to command. General! Don't break formation! For the gods!
Now, a lot of people tend to do tactics like that. Auxiliary infantry are very expendable. I mean, they're pretty bad in melee. They're alright for supporting engagements. Not that good, but okay. But the reason why I bought them is to support against the flanks against these superior cav units. Because chances are,
Hunger for blood and battle! Get running! Infantry!
chances are he'd probably beat me, he'd beat my cav, even though he has less melee cav.
Equal! Run, curse you! General!
Now, I see this unit of Praetorian Cav isolated. Obviously, if I am able to get my spears in to this unit of Praetorian Cav, although they are, actually they're a low threat. That doesn't make sense, but okay.
General! Riders at the double! Slingers!
Ready for battle!
Whoops, wrong game.
Roar!
Forward! War commando!
Now he did what I expected him to do.
Get running!
He's going to use his war dogs early, which is of course a bad idea.
Missile warriors! Move it!
Whoops,
Forward!
put them the wrong way.
Infantry! Riders, advance! Infantry!
For the gods!
Stemplo! Forward! For the gods! Roma Invicta! Riders at the double!
Now he's at a safe distance. I mean, Equites are not the best cav unit. The reason why I did that should be pretty obvious. It gives these units of cav time to get away. Most of his javelins have been connecting, but a good amount haven't.
Happy to serve Rome! Forward!
And I mean, the way he's using it is also pretty bad, so in all fairness.
Riders, advance! For Rome!
Melee infantry! Quick march! Stop!
Slingers!
Now I'm paying close attention to
Echo!
his flanks, but he's just keeping his cav here. I'm
Equo!
kind of taken back.
Advance at speed!
Our hidden units have been discovered.
Happy to serve Rome! Infantry! Equites! Stemplo! Infantry! Forward! Advance at speed! Quickly now!
Now he's probably thinking that he's doing
Quickly now!
himself a favor by going for my, obviously,
Riders!
um, they're not obviously cheap, but they're a pretty sturdy unit.
Quickly now!
But there's a reason why I'm doing this, and it's because these Numidians would end up wasting my own cav units.
Equites! Obediamos!
So of course if I give him a target to fire at, he'll probably just fire that instead.
Infantry! Ready for battle! Equites! Forward!
Now there's some dogs here that I'd like to get rid of.
Battle ready! Equites! Forward! Advance at speed! Infantry! Andata tua! Quickly now! Riders at the double! Quickly to serve Rome!
Ready!
Alright, I can continue now.
Ready! Get running! Infantry! Domine! Orders! Warriors ready! Pull back! Equities! Legionary cohort! Quick march! Infantry! Double time! Riders, advance! Quickly now! General! Warriors ready! General! Infantry!
Now this entire time he's been aiming for these units of cav, but he hasn't been able to get it.
Equities! Riders, at the double! Infantry!
To Romans, ready for duty. Riders, advance. Happy to serve.
Orders! Quickly now! Slingers! We hunger for blood and battle! Riders ready! Infantry, at your command! Infantry! Deadly missiles ready! We'll kill them all! Equities! Raiders! At the double!
The men are wavering.
Equities!